Council.
Jonesboro's community radio station. Your life, your music. KLEK 102.5 FM.
Hello, Jonesboro.
Just Tim Root with your KLEK 102.5 forecast. Mostly sunny skies today and Sunday. Looks like a nice weekend. Comfortable winds and humidity. The high around 78 today and very close to 80 Sunday. Mostly clear skies tonight, about 58 to 64. Now it's going to be on the low 80s Monday. Should be partly to mostly sunny. Well, let's beat this virus. Keep your distance between people this weekend. Stay hydrated and please no handshaking. Your life, your music. We're KLEK 102.5 FM.
It's 3 o'clock.
KLEK LP Jonesboro, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council. It's now time for our Thoughts on the Matter, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.
KLEK 102.5 FM. Good morning to you. Not morning, I'm so used to saying community conversation. Good afternoon to you. This is Saturday, May 30th, 2020. This is a very special interview. We have joined us in the studio. We have Jonesboro Mayor Harold Perrin, and we have Jonesboro Police Chief Rick Elliott, and we have Mr. Bill Kimball, the City Communications Director for the City of Jonesboro. Mayor Perrin called into the studio to request this time to speak to the community in light of all of the events going on and also all of the protests as well. So we're gonna first hear a statement from Mayor Perrin and from Chief Elliott, and then I've already got some questions that have been texted to me, and then we'll also take questions and comments on our live feed. And we also got joining us via Zoom, Quabila Jones, host of Community Conversations, and Dominique Phillips, the president of the Arkansas State University NAACP. Dominique and Q, can y'all hear me? I want to make sure you're all good before we get started. All right, Dominique, are you there? Okay, yeah, now we got you. I didn't have you on the board. Okay, so let's go ahead. We'll start off. Mayor, you requested this time, so the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Leganzi. I appreciate that. I just, in my heart, I've been thinking about this, and when I saw the video of Mr. Floyd, George Floyd, it was just inhumane, and I want to let the people know in Jonesboro that first of all, we don't want to tolerate anything like that in Jonesboro, and we wouldn't. And our police department, I'm going to let the chief speak on that, on how they're trained. But I can tell you that in my heart, and I know in my mind that our police department would never ever tolerate something like that. And so I just want to get that out there and let the people know that. And also, you know, if someone is doing something wrong or whatever, to me, and I'm not a police officer, but I can tell you that race doesn't matter, the suspect doesn't matter. Again, the key to that is that they've been trained to do things that what you saw on television is not the way they were trained, and that's just to me it's terrible. In fact, as you know, when I became mayor 12 years ago, I started a prayer meeting with all the pastors, and so we meet actually the third Thursday of each month, but I'm going to send out an email Monday and bring all my pastors in, because it's been laid on my heart, and I know it has theirs as well. And we need to pray for Jonesboro. We need to pray for our people. This COVID-19 and all these things that's going on now, and the tornado, there's many things that's touched my people and the citizens of Jonesboro. You know, and then something like this to happen, you know, it's just, I think it's time for, I'm going to use the word revival. We need to pray for these people and let them know that we sincerely appreciate their thoughts and their prayers, that all this back to what happened to Mr. Floyd. And so that's kind of what I wanted to tell you, and I did want to have the chief here to tell you more in detail of how our people are trained and et cetera, okay?
And after we hear from Chief Elliott, we will get to the questions and comments. We have several, and some of these comments were asked anonymously because I'm just going to be honest, there is a lot of hurt a lot of anger and a lot of anxiety in the black community. So we will respect those people's privacy, but we will ask those questions. So Chief, go ahead with your statement.
Good afternoon, everyone, and again, thank you for allowing us to come in. This is a hurtful time in our community and across the nation. And as the world's watching the violent protests in Minnesota and other cities around the United States in response to the death of George Floyd, it's important to recognize that the law enforcement community itself has voiced extreme criticism over those actions of those officers in Minnesota. There's not a law enforcement officer in this country that is condoning what they have done and saying that's right. It's not in anybody's training, and what they did was wrong in many different aspects.
Well, Chief, I do want to interrupt you just for a quick second on that. So you're saying if that had happened in JPD, would you have fired that officer immediately?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I'll commend the chief in Minnesota. Yes, you have to start an investigation. I mean, but you see those actions, and you look into it, and then on a situation like that, it's a quick decision. Now, as far as the legal system process, you got to have a full investigation to know how to proceed forward. And for some folks, that doesn't happen in a day, and they don't understand that. But the bottom line is, incidents like that are investigated. Anytime there's a death in custody, we bring in state police. And then if that's not good enough, we'll bring in the FBI. So one, we never investigate any kind of death in custody or officer-involved incident that ends up in a fatal incident. But I want the public to realize that we have policies in place, and we have training in place to prevent things like this. We have policies in place that addresses bias-based policing, racial profiling. These policies are adopted by departments all across the country, and a lot of them are mandated by the Department of Justice. As we go back through history, DOJ has stepped up and intervened and mandated this kind of training across the country to cut down on some of these problems. Is it still fixed? No, there's still issues, absolutely, but a lot of it goes back to the administration and training. And the chiefs and sheriffs, these are one of these topics that you've got to constantly stay on and train and make sure your officers are following these guidelines. In this incident up in Minnesota, if the man's to be placed in custody, then put him in custody, then take him to jail if that's what it was supposed to be. But the fact that they had him detained on the ground and in that position for so long, that's just wrong in many aspects. And now that those officers did that action, it has damaged the trust in what I have done in this community and tried to do since I've been chief in the past 5 years. The repercussions have gone from Minneapolis to California to Florida to Mississippi, whatever. It spreads across the country. And we get that, we understand that. When I took over this department in 2014, we were looking at what was going on in Ferguson, Missouri. And why was that going on? So I see the struggles, I see the issues, I hear the people, I hear the concerns. And this is why I began these community outreach programs, is to try to bring the community together to solve a problem. Because we can complain and gripe to each other about it, but as I've said a million times on this radio show, it's better off when we talk to each other instead of at each other. We can solve problems that way. I can't speak for the rest of the country on solving these problems, but as the chief of this community and the mayor of this community, I can say the best way to handle problems is come to the table, sit down, and we can work on issues. And we've done so in the past, and we've gained headway. But my key message here today to anybody that's listening is, these kind of actions is not going to be tolerated. And my heart goes out to Mr. Floyd, his family, and his fiancée, and everybody that's been impacted by it. But I hope that the thing that we learn about all this is, as a community or any community, you need to get people to the table and sit down and work on the issue. You can have a protest and be heard the day of the protest, but what has happened after that day? What's being done after that day to solve the problem? And for the past several years, when things happen, I see the protest, but what's the after action after that? Where are the groups coming together to sit down with people in the community to resolve the problem? We don't know about the problem, can't fix the problem, but I've always opened the door in this community to come in and sit down and discuss problems. But also, when I ask people when they come to the table, I want you to bring some solutions to the table. Because together we can make things, and you make your community great by working together. Not yelling at each other or cursing each other, but working together. And this is what Jonesboro is good at.
All right, Chief, we're going to have to leave it there. I want to make sure we get to these questions because I think Bill said we only had 30 minutes total for the segment. So I want to definitely make sure that we get to the questions that have sent in from the community. So this first one, this is from Mayor Perrin. It says, Mayor Perrin, thank you for taking time to address the black community on KLEK. Would you please explain to the listeners and viewers what percentage of your leadership positions are held by minorities, specifically positions that serve at the direct pleasure of the mayor and City Hall? Thank you.
Okay. If you're talking about the percentage or whatever like that, I couldn't tell you right off the top of my head. But we have several in our MPO department. We've got that, and several others. So I can't tell you that much. But what we want to do is to make sure that we are unified. We're equal opportunity employer. We're going to continue to be that way. And over the years, I've had some wonderful people work for me that's gone on to have a job that pays more and things of that nature. And while they were there, I understand that. I hate to lose them, but certainly on the city budget, as tight as it is, we certainly couldn't afford to match that salary, and I've talked to each one of them. And the good news is everybody that's left has gone to a position and salary increase every time that they've left the city. And I certainly want to continue to be friends with those folks, and I told them that in our exit interview, we always have those, and to me, in my heart, they're still my friend, and I think they would think the same way about me.
Well, Mayor, can you, and I'm still getting people texting, they want to know, can you specifically name any minority department heads that you currently have in this administration? And if you do not, will there be an initiative by the city to get minorities, not just in lower positions, but in leadership positions? I think that's one thing that the community wants to see is a diversity in all levels, especially in upper administration.
Right, I understand that. And well, again, as I said before, the one that I can think of before is that is right now we have in the MPO, the Metropolitan Planning Organization there. And then I had.
Do you have a name?
Cecily.
Okay.
Cecily. And then prior to that, I'm just trying to think, go through real quick in my mind how many we have in there, and I'm just trying to think as far as what I call department heads or directors. I think that's probably the only one right now that I can think of, to the best of my knowledge. Now, again, going back on that, we've had others in our IT department. We've had others in our grants division. We've had planning, several of them in the past. But like I said, every one of them went to, some moved out of state, some stayed in Jonesboro and got a better job, and I understand that, and we talked about it. But yes, you're right, and I can tell you this, is that as we're interviewing or whatever, we will interview all people, and if they qualify for the jobs and stuff, then I would be most happy to put them in there if we had a vacancy, no doubt.
Okay, we got to go on. We got several more questions in there steady
okay.
Coming in. Okay, Dominic, as soon as I get through these questions, we'll bring you and Quabila on for your questions. You sure y'all can't do an hour? Because this is just really...
We can do 45 minutes.
All right, let's do 45. I mean, this is too important, and the community has too many concerns just to rush through this.
Yeah.
So I really want to give all of our listeners... You wanted this opportunity to speak, and so they want the opportunity to speak to you. So let's get to our next question. Now I got to find on my text where it went. All right, Mayor. Hold on, I lost it again. All right. Over 10 years ago, you promised the black community that a street would be honored in MLK's name. This was met with tons of white resistance here in Jonesboro. There were times that you did not show up at some of the important city council meetings and pretended that he did not know he was allowed to vote on this issue. When people like myself get up to speak in favor of the MLK Street, we were mocked by people in the audience and silenced by city council members. Why is it so important for you to address blacks on racism when we were shut down by city officials? I'm going to go ahead and just ask all of these questions since they were all sent at once. Then the next one is, why is it the city, I don't understand the word, but I'm going to just read the word for it. It says, why is it the city more nepotism in the city office than diversity? Are you doing this to secure the black vote in Jonesboro, and why are you addressing the black community? Shouldn't you be addressing the white community on this? And shout out to Bill.
Well, first of all, what I'm doing today is I'm addressing everybody in Jonesboro, and that's the entire city. So I want to make that clear. Second thing is the fact that I think your question was on the MLK deal. If you'll go back and remember on that 10 years, whoever's making that call, is that I was the one that got with Dr. Charles Coleman and even went to Little Rock. I attend the highway meetings, and we were at that time under guidelines. We were able to get the overpass, and I know that didn't please everyone, but we did get the overpass done. Then after that, then we started working with the highway department to make sure that we were trying to do that. So we had that. I even had a sign made, if I'm not mistaken, probably 8, 9, 10 years ago, about trying to find the right street. Now, I formed committees. Those committees come back with recommendations. Now, I can't control the behavior of the audience, if you will, or even with the city council members. I mean, they're elected like I am. But I can tell you that we wanted a street named after Martin Luther King. And now we do have, which is Commerce Drive, which the signs are up. I was there when the signs were put up. So I hope that answers your question on that.
All right, we're going to go ahead and bring in Dominique from the Arkansas State NAACP for a question, and we'll see if Kabila have a question, and then we've got some questions on our Facebook Live. Dominique?
Good afternoon. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor Perrin and Chief Elliott. First off, thank you for feeling the need to reach out to KLEK and using this platform to kind of offer up some reassurance to the Jonesboro community. I do have one quick question. With the recent events occurring, have you two began to work on developing any strategic plans with the Jonesboro Police, within the Jonesboro Police Department, to prohibit situations like the one that just occurred? Or are you both confident in the plans you've already implemented and feel there is no need to change anything at this time?
Okay, before you answer, let me restate that, because I know we kind of got a little bit of echo. We're still working out these technical issues. So her question was to the mayor and to the chief. Is there a strategic plan being formulated that will address issues such as what is going on now? And if there is not a plan, do you all feel that what you all have in place is sufficient enough?
Sure, good question, and you're right. Anytime there's a national incident like that, you take that tragedy, and each sheriff and chief should learn from that tragedy and then look at what they're doing and adjust things accordingly. So if you fail to do so, then you're negligent. So again, after I took over 5 years ago during the Ferguson times, we look at policy procedure, and if any changes need to be made, then they're made. We look at incidents like this, and we make sure that it doesn't happen. Is this part of our training to put a knee in the neck? No, it is not. And I have a copy of our policies, and they're available for public inspection.
Could you let them know where they're available at?
We can post them on our website.
I think that would be good if you posted on the website so that people can look at them.
We'll post our use of force and our bias-based policing and racial profile policies. All these policies meet, they're called model policies that are utilized by major departments across the country. Then we adopt them from the International Association of Chiefs of Police, and then we take them and modify them to our needs. So when you look at incidents like this, and what they did, is that in anybody's training curriculum? No, it's not. So when you look at risk procedures and things like that, you go by a standard nationalized guidelines, and then when you do end up in court, you can justify what you're doing, and it's been pretty much tried and true and proven in court. So getting back to the answer to your question is, yes, whether anytime something like this comes up, you know, you want to look at your own policies, procedures, and things that are going on, and make sure you're doing it right. And again, if anything needs to be modified, absolutely, you modify it. You've got to learn, you know, from other people's tragedies, and you know, you don't want that happening in your community.
Okay, thank you. And just to follow up, you will, just for clarification, you will be just kind of re-looking or looking over those policies and the plans that you've already put in place, correct?
Absolutely. Again, you know, when these situations come up, you know, we re-push out the things like this. It's like, hey, these are incidents that gain national attention. We review policies every year. Racial profiling, bias-based policing, that's a mandated review. They have to review it. They have to take a test on it every year. As with a lot of our policies, that they're mandated to go over and be tested and reviewed on, and we document that information. So, yes, the answer to your question is we always look at it, and when whatever comes up, if it's whatever issue it is, if it's a handcuffing technique or whatever, we always go back and look at it and sit down with our instructors. And
Chief, we're going to have to leave it there because we want to get to this phone call and so many. I'm sorry, it's blowing. We've got over 80 people on our Facebook Live, and the question coming in. Caller, are you there? You're on KLEK Live. What's your name? Caller, are you still with us? How you doing, Bishop Rogers? What's your question or comment?
My comment is going back to the Travis Carter incident that happened at Jonesboro. And I remember myself, along with Pastor Scales and several other pastors, did a news conference, and we asked the people of our city to remain calm, and then also not to allow outsiders to come in and destroy our city.
Right.
And much of what's happened in Minneapolis, from what I understand, has been caused by outsiders.
Right.
Protesting is understandable. Anger is understandable.
Oh, absolutely.
But rioting and looting is foolish.
Right.
And so I was very grateful for the way our city responded to that incident, and I hope the people in Minneapolis will do that as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Mayor and Police Chief, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for the call, Bishop.
Excellent point.
All right, let's bring in Kabila. Kabila, do you have a question? We want to make sure that we don't leave you out, and then we'll go back to the text and the live feed.
Yes, I have a question real quick. Hello, Mayor, Chief, and Bill. This is an anonymous question. Is there a citizen review policy when officers have complaints from the community? We, heard about the case in Minnesota that particular officer had a long list of complaints against him, and it took this for something to be done. Is there a way for citizens, one, to review? Is there a policy or is something in place for citizens to make a complaint? And two, is it possible for the citizens to review the complaints made against several officers?
All right, again, let me restate the question. The question was, is there a citizens review board for the Jonesboro Police Department? She mentioned that the officer that killed George Floyd had 18 prior complaints, and I actually saw this on social media myself. I think only once or maybe twice in which he actually got any kind of sanction. It was just like a letter of reprimand. So is that in place? And if not, will that be put in place for the Jonesboro Police Department?
That's something that's been asked before. We don't have a citizen review. We have internal review process that we have internal affairs investigation branch of the division of the department. Complaints come in, they're investigated, and if it warrants an outside investigation, then we turn it over to another agency to be investigated. We do have a system of checks and balances so that the results go back to the person involved. If the officer that's being receives discipline, then that disciplinary action becomes public record, so that information is released to the public.
All right, this question is for Mayor Perrin. It says, community organizations are wanting to meet, but at times cannot because of a lack of location. Would you be willing to waive or reduce the fee that groups have to pay to meet at community centers in the city for the purpose of them being to address issues that we're facing in the city?
Well, I would say, yeah, absolutely. That's not an issue at all.
All right, let's go to our Facebook Live feed. By the way, everybody that's on our Facebook Live feed, we do appreciate your patience. The questions are rolling in faster. We can get them answered. We want to try to get to as many of them as we can in the time that we have allotted. So, okay. It says, Mayor and Chief, will you go onto the predominantly white audience radio stations and inform them of their policies?
I'll go anywhere I need to go to inform people of our policy. You know, we have a social media outlet. We post things for the public to see, and you can access our website or you can access our Facebook. But whatever the public, wants, we'll be glad to post it.
We're meeting Leganzi, by the way, at 4 o'clock with KAIT, which is why we're 45 minutes with you. We'll probably give them 15. Now, I assume this would be representative of what you call the...
Well, let me ask you this, Bill. So, Chief, you're already going to be coming Wednesday. Mayor, can you come back with Chief Wednesday and we do part 2?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so we're going to do part...
If you want.
Yeah, I don't want the people not to be heard. So
Okay.
I think that's great. No
This
problem.
I want everybody to listen and understand. This is a part 1. There's a part 2 Wednesday, but you know what? We can do part 3, 4, 5, and 105.
Well, I mean, Chief, I know you'll come on, but because the mayor's the one with the busy schedule.
He is, but bottom line is, as I've been saying for 5 years now, we sit down and talk and work out problems, we can get problems solved.
All right, let's get back to some questions. So
the door is open, folks.
And they've been walking the door. They've been coming up to these questions. So
Good.
y'all hear it. Part
Great.
2, Wednesday
Part 2.
at 9 o'clock. All right. Would Mayor Perrin consider providing an educational course to help people of color to learn legal rights during police interaction, and not what recommendations to give to prevent rebelling across police when this does occur? There are no recommendations to protect these victims. We don't be victimized, stand up to injustice. I'll respond to that, and then I'll let Chief get on there. Chief Elliott did do this with the local NAACP, and it may be time to revisit that. Sure. And there's also the Citizens Police Academy, which I recommend, which will give you that perspective. But I will let Chief now answer the question.
Well, absolutely. Education. Any chance we get to educate individuals on any subject matter, we're more than glad to get together in any kind of environment. Again, now with the COVID stuff going on, the numbers are restricted, so therefore it may take many events to accomplish and get the word out, but absolutely we're willing to do whatever we need to do. I would also look at, I can put together a video, in-house video, and post that on our Facebook. If we get a list of these questions and things we want answered, we can certainly do that also. So there's ways to get the word out to the public. And so if you'll take notes, Leganzi, on what the questions are and how we want to go and what educational materials we need to bring to the public, then collectively we will sit down and educate our community on whatever the topic they want to bring up.
All right, let's go back to Dominique. Dominique, did you have another question? Dominique, are you still with us?
I am here.
Did you have another question? We want to make sure that we hear from our Arkansas State people in the community as well.
Yes, sir. Chief Elliott, you mentioned with my question about going back and reviewing your policies due to these past incidents. Will you have an advisory board? And if you do, who is on there? Are there any minority representation?
I do not have an advisory board.
So you review this yourself?
Our policies are called model policies. Policies have gone through an accreditation process, so they meet national standards. Again, policies are open for public review. It's public record.
All right, Kubila, did you have a question? Kubila, you're muted.
Okay. Well, a follow-up question, and this has been something I've seen come through the live feed as well, concerning increasing cultural relations, and I'm going to use the word cultural competency. That's a social work term I've often heard. Basically, ensuring the officers are more culturally aware of the citizens that make up the city of Jonesboro, and being a little more sensitive to their culture, their background. I just want to say this. I saw some officers the other day handing out popsicles, which is a great thing. We need those same officers to have that same compassion when they're interacting with someone. I understand when someone commits a crime, you have to engage how you have to engage, but again, Chief, are you going to try to implement more discussion and more training to say, okay, let's look at this from all perspectives?
Well, Jonesboro is a city of many cultures. As long as the Arkansas State University, we know last count there was over 60 nationalities out there. So you talk about a diverse cultural city, we got it. And when you get into other nationalities, there's some cultural differences that, we have to have training on. But on a daily basis, the officers that's handing out the copsicles in those particular neighborhoods, that they serve that same neighborhood every day, and they understand the philosophy of community-oriented policing, the COPS program. This is a program that I brought back to the community 5 years ago when I took over the chief, that I want the officers out in the community and engaging with the community on a daily basis, not just writing tickets, whatever. I want them that interaction, and I have empowered them to get out and to involve themselves with the community. This is why we host these many events that we do every year. It's for the officers to engage in the community and open up this dialogue and develop this relationship and help bridge these gaps that we have. So I think in 5 years we've made great headway in moving forward. Or is it perfect? Absolutely not. But together, we've made some headways. So we're open for any suggestions and trainings, sit downs, and if you have some solutions, then please bring those to the table.
All right, so got another text question that just came in, and this is for both the mayor and the chief. In your opinion, do Black Lives matter? Now, before you answer that, we all know that all lives do matter,
Absolutely.
But all lives cannot matter unless Black lives themselves matter. And what you are seeing going on in the country is that you feel that African Americans, we feel like our lives don't matter when you're seeing one of us get killed in the street, and it's taken all of this for just even the smallest semblance of justice. I really think, Mayor, if you want to have the Black community in Jonesboro support you and what you and Chief are trying to do, I think that you need to stand in solidarity and let us know that you both feel that Black lives do matter. Your thoughts?
Let me go first. Yeah, I'll go first.
All right.
Absolutely, Black lives matter, without a doubt. All lives matter, without a doubt. Here's the problems we face day in and day out in our city. A lot of times we have crime. A lot of times the crime is black on black. And a lot of times, sometimes that ends up in fatalities.
Well, let me stop.
But what I'm saying is we want justice, and Black Lives Matter. I want the community, when things happen in the community, I want the community to help us solve those crimes. I want those people who committed those crimes brought to justice.
Now, and Chief, I agree with that. People need to step forward and report crime. But let me just explain this to you. When people say black on black crime, that's a trigger word to the Black community, because I'm sure you look at the crime stats that come through the police department. Crimes are committed by people of their own race, most likely. Is that not true?
Sometimes,
or to the crime stats that you have. Mm-hmm. So when a person says that black on black crime, that's a trigger word.
But bottom line is, so the Black Lives Matter, it matters because we're out there working, trying to solve the crime, but not getting any cooperation. So those lives matter because we're up and out of bed at 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning trying to solve crimes, because it matters. No matter who you are, if a crime has occurred, we're there to protect and serve and do what's right and bring that person to justice, regardless of race. So yes, all lives matter. Certainly Black Lives Matter.
All right, let's hear from Mayor Perrin.
Well, answer your question, and the question is, does Black lives matter? Absolutely. There's no question about that. If it didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here today. The same thing I think that Bishop Rogers just mentioned a while ago. that situation that occurred there, that officer's not with the Jonesboro PD. Now, I can't get into personnel matters and things of that nature. My point is that I think that the city of Jonesboro has proven over and over that all lives matter, but black lives do matter. No question about that. I've probably, in the last 12 years, attended all the churches here, and I am so thankful that that Bishop Rogers and Glenn Conley and Curtis and all of those folks come to my prayer meetings on the third Thursday of each month. And we talk about that, we pray about that, and this city has to be united, and I think we are united. But the point is that we always, and there's going to things like this that happen, it's going to pop up, but again, it's bad, it's sad, it shouldn't have happened, but the point is that in Jonesboro, Arkansas, I really believe in my heart that we are united in this town. Now, people will disagree with me, some will, some won't, but my point is I can only tell you what's on my heart.
All right, Chief, you got another question. Says, can we schedule a town hall meeting where all these issues can be addressed? I understand there will be a part 2 here on KLEK, but as a concerned citizen, would like it to be more personalized.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right.
Again, that door has been open for 5 years, so you just get the information and we'll find the location and go.
All right. Let's go back to Dominique. I see that she's unmuted. Dominique, did you have another question?
Yes, Chief Elliott, you just recently stated that you all get up at 6 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the morning, and you all work very hard, and we do thank you. We do appreciate your work and everyone's work in the police department. You also stated that you all needed us, the community, to report those crimes and everything like that. But what is the police department or you doing to assure the black community that confidentiality will be held, as well as our best interests are the main line? I think that's a lot of things. It's a lot of distrust.
Well, hold up again, just let me restate that. So what Dominique is asking is, you stated that African Americans need to do more to report crimes, and her question is, what can the police department do to assure that if an African American is a victim of a crime, that that person can report that crime without fear of repercussions, or, you know, that's this not snitching mentality. So what it's kind of, I think what she's saying is a two-way street. What can, if we are to come forward, what can you all do to protect those that come forward?
Here's
not what can. I'm sorry, not what can. What are you doing after? Presently? What are you doing?
As a potential witness in a crime, if there's a crime committed and there's only a handful of people, and you are witness to it, there's a point in time that you're going to testify in court. So remaining anonymous is, not going to happen. And some call it the snitch mentality, so they just rather not say anything, so therefore they condone that action, and therefore the perpetrator goes without justice. And then there's the victim that may be deceased that will never see, and him or her family never see that person brought to justice because somebody has the snitch mentality. It's called doing the right thing, and that's what makes a community great. Sometimes you got to step up, and if it takes you testifying in court, then that's the right thing to do for that person and for your community. So,
Legenzi, I want to add something.
Okay, go ahead.
If I can, because when you said that Black Lives Matter, well, that's an easy answer. But I think what the question really is: does the Black Lives Matter movement matter? Does the city of Jonesboro understand that? And I want to say that the answer is unequivocally yes. I've seen it for 4+ years myself, and I know we're in a unique city because we're talking about, when we talk about the death of George Floyd, we're talking about history. We're not talking about the death of just George Floyd. We're talking about history that goes back forever in this country, and I think that raises a lot of questions, and people are hitting on a lot of touch points right here, including the fact Jonesboro's history let's call it like it is. Historically, Jonesboro is a white community. It was on a ridge. It was a farming community. When I visited Jonesboro in my younger days, it was 98% white. The community was 98% white. So what you feel, what you hear out there are going to be people who do not understand what you mean when you say Black Lives Matter. My police chief, my mayor, the directors in the city of Jonesboro get it. I can promise you that. But does everyone in the community? No, because they haven't lived it, they haven't seen it, they have lived only in Jonesboro, and Jonesboro is changing. It's for the better. The diversity that Chief Elliott just spoke of is phenomenal, and diversity makes you stronger. And I think we have always recognized a shortage of diversity in leadership, but it's hard to make that move when you're growing, when we've been growing in the last 10 years as a diverse community. And we want diverse leadership throughout the city of Jonesboro. And as I've been here, we've had some really great African American leaders and other nationality leaders that are ethnicity leaders, and they most have gotten other jobs and gone on. That's the same truth for white people, but yes, that is something that needs to be addressed, and it's constantly worked on. But I think we have to keep everything in perspective when we talk about these issues, and I'll shut up now.
All right, because I got a very pointed question that I want to ask both the mayor and the chief that just came in. It says, how does the mayor, and I want the chief's opinion on this as well, view the tweet from the current administration at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, and they're obviously talking about President Trump, when he's tweeted, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Since this issue is on his heart, are you ready to denounce or support such a tweet? Mayor?
Well, the answer would be no. I mean, you can't, I mean, you know, if somebody...
When you say no, make sure you're clear. You said no, you're not denouncing, yes, you are denouncing that.
Well, I would say that I would not make that statement. I think that's very clear.
Yeah, that's...
I mean, that's you know, you got to think before you say, and you got to, and that's not the case that we're, you know, here. I mean, if a crime is going on or whatever, they have protocol, procedures, and all that stuff. But looting and laundering and things of that nature that go on and stuff like that in some of these towns that happen, then I think that they're pretty much well under control.
Chief?
Denounce. Period. I mean, I don't understand coming from the president a statement like that, but that's not how the situation's handled. No.
All right, Chief. Let's go to you for this next question. Let me scroll up. These things are coming in so quickly. Definitely, if we don't get to everybody today, we will be back at 9 o'clock Wednesday. We'll have both Chief Elliott and Mayor Perrin with us. This is a two-part question. One, why are the Sky Cops in the black neighborhoods and not the white neighborhoods? And two, if you encourage your officers to engage in the community, why are most officers I see parked on the side of the buildings or in church parking lots and not walking the beat?
Well, due to the shortage of officers, you know, they can't get too far away from their cars because they have to go to other areas. With this COVID stuff going on, they've kind of slowed down on a lot of interaction with the public, just to try to cut down any kind of exposure. The answer about the Sky Cops, we place the Sky Cops in the areas where are crime-ridden according to our crime stats. So the end result of the Sky Cops, since they've been up, we've changed the dynamics in those neighborhoods and have seen a reduction in the crimes in those neighborhoods. Therefore, we have safer neighborhoods than what they were prior to the Sky Cops. All right. And, you know, there is a Sky Cop out at Craighead Forest, so it's not just black neighborhoods. And as money permits, yes, we will add more Sky Cops across the town. So, again, we take the areas that are prone to crime and our hotspots.
All right, I'm gonna read this because this person has posted this in the chat multiple times, and I'm gonna give you all the opportunity to respond to it, even though this is gonna be something probably is gonna be more likely to have to be handled off air. But Quincy Tony says, I was physically assaulted. I reported police misconduct to Mayor Perrin. The chief threatened me with jail time, and I have the receipts. Like I said, that may be something you all may have to respond to, deal with off air. But since he's posted it multiple times and we are letting the community have the voice, I did want to put it out there.
Put it out there. I don't know who Mr. Thomas is, but
Quincy Tony.
Mm-hmm. We'll go back and have you an answer Wednesday.
All right. Mayor, did you have anything to say to that?
I would ask him to provide his whatever receipt that he has that he's talking about, though.
Right. I don't remember. Again, that's something that, you got to go back that far. I don't know. I don't know when that occurred. Don't know when that I've got something like that. In most cases, when I have something like that, I send that, whatever the subject matter is, send it directly to the department head, ask them to respond back to me. So, again, we can certainly have your answer Wednesday.
All right, Mayor, next question is, are you prepared for a protest in Jonesboro? And Mayor, and to the chief, how will you respond if there is a protest here in Jonesboro?
Well, I'd be glad to answer that question. Any civil protest in this town is obviously always open because, again, those people want to be heard and express their feelings or whatever, particularly if it was on this case that with Mr. Floyd. And so, absolutely, if it's organized and done properly, absolutely. And I think this town's always had open arms to any type of protest that has been civil and done properly, no problem whatsoever.
All right, Kubila, we'll let Kubila ask the last question. We're running out of time. I wish we had more time, but they are going on KEIT at 4 o'clock, so be sure to tune in to see what they have to say on there. And also come back Wednesday at 9 a.m. We're going to have them both back. And Bill, if you can't block, maybe just block off 2 hours. Just clear the mayor's schedule for 2 hours. All right, Kubila, we'll let you ask the last question.
I have a question, more so a statement. And this is coming from my sociology background. I would just like, when we come back Wednesday, to have either statements or questions prepared to let the people know how are you as our leaders going to help them navigate what's next. We are already in the midst of this pandemic. Emotions are already high because of various reasons. And now with the racial tensions added onto that, it's just like the nation has reached its boiling point. And so we don't need, and I'm not trying to be aggressive here, but I'm just saying, as a Black person in America, we don't need lip service. We need to hear some real things. And I understand it takes the community as well to submit those suggestions. I want us to all have a civil conversation, but I just want everyone to recognize there have been systematic, there have been things in place that are systematic and intentional to keep certain groups of people down. So anyway, when we come back Wednesday, hopefully we can have a deeper, more extensive conversation on this matter. And we would just like to hear from our mayor, our chief, and other leaders. How are we going to go forward?
All right, we got 2 minutes. Let you all respond, and then we'll have to leave it there and come back Wednesday.
Mayor, you got to say.
No, that.
Well, just
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Well, just as we close today, again, I want to thank everyone for tuning in, listening in, and sending in your questions and concerns. I hear you. I see what you're saying, and certainly hear what you're saying. And we want to give you those answers, and we want to collectively together work together and solve any issues that we have in our community. So it's not, don't just throw me the problem. Again, I keep saying, bring some solutions, bring your recommendations, and then we'll see if we can meet in the middle and come up with something that is good for our community. And maybe others around us will look at it, and maybe it can spread across the country.
All right. We want to thank both Mayor Perrin and Chief Elliott and Mr. Campbell for stopping by. Don't forget, our clothing distribution is still going on. We've got boxes of clothes that we are giving away free to the community. Just look for the First National Bank Tower behind the building and the 2 white trailers on the side of the building. Jonesboro Police Chief Rick Elliott and Jonesboro Mayor Harold Perrin, they will join us again Wednesday at 9 a.m. So make sure that you tune in so we can continue this discussion. And as Chief said, if we need to have part 3, 4, 5, we got time so
whatever it takes.
That's right.
All right, you guys enjoy the rest of your weekend. This is
Thank you so much.
102.5 FM.
Thank you for listening to our Thoughts on the Matter on KLEK 102.5 FM, a program offering opinions from all sides of the issues concerning local, state, and national topics of importance to the Jonesboro community. The views expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of KLEK 102.5 FM, the voice of Arkansas Minority Advocacy Council, or our underwriters, donors, or sponsors.